Hey YouTube, I'm Joe. You're watching my channel Ink&Iron, and today I'd like to tell you about my favorite work EDC combo of all time. EDC stands for Everyday Carry. These are things that I bring with me to work every day. By the way, I work in cannabis extraction. It's a very new and emerging field, and we have a diverse set of requirements for stuff that we work with every day. So I needed a very adaptable set of things to bring with me to work, and these two items are the bulk of what I need on a day-to-day basis. This is the Leatherman Surge. Most of you have probably seen this multi-tool before, made by Leatherman. This is the black coated version with the replaceable wire cutters. Has some bolt turning capability, has some one-handed exterior tools, a couple of blades, a file. We'll get more into it later. And I also carry this with a pocket clip. And then in addition to that, its best friend is the Knipex 180mm Pliers Wrench. This is so called because the forefront here simulates an adjustable wrench, as many of you have seen. If you're a plumber, this is your bread and butter right here. But the back end is a pair of pliers, and this adds for a sort of dynamic adjustment of the jaws as you go. It has a little ratchet system here. Press the button in, lock into a spot, and then you can adjust a few millimeters on either end. I will show you why that's so important here in a minute. But yeah, I love these things, and I hope you get a better appreciation of them while I talk about them. Let's get into how I use these things every day. So the Knipex 180mm does a lot for me, actually. The first thing is turning nuts. Obviously, I've brought a sample nut here for you. This is a 5/8 inch brass nut, and this is very typical size that I would use every day. So the adjustability of these pliers is fantastic. Just a simple push button and you can move that ratchet, no problem. And then as you can see, as you work the handles open and closed, the jaws open and close correspondingly. So open it up all the way, get around your nut, push them down, and then squeezing it actually locks in there, so I can't pull this nut out of the jaws because of that 10-to-1 compression ratio that we talked about. So yeah, first thing is turning nuts, and as you can tell when I do this, you can actually walk around the nut without losing your positioning on it, which comes in handy when you need to switch sizes. So here's a 5/8. This one's 11/16. I pull the handles wider and I can actually get my jaws on there as well. Turn it just like that, and I'm not sure what this size is. A little bit smaller than the other ones. But yeah, quick adjustment and I can get on there as well. This one needs to be one notch wider. If there's any complaint about the adjusting of these pliers, it's that you don't always nail it on the first go, but they're so easy to adjust that it's not an issue. So yeah, there you have it. That's the nut turning potential of these guys. What else do I use this for? Oh, gas line fittings, which I have a video of. Let me cut to that. So what you just saw me do was adjust a nitrogen tank, and that was my main reason for getting the 180mm tools versus there's a smaller 150 and 125, but this one is big enough to actually get onto a nitrogen tank regulator fitting, which is what I needed, and super handy to have this in case I lose my dedicated tools that I have at work. So that's been nice. The maximum jaw width on this, by the way, in this position at the maximum ratchet and with the handles closed, this is 1.21 inches or 30.75 millimeters. If you walk these handles out, which this is not a great position to use these pliers in if you're actually trying to turn something, but you get a little more space, 1.4 inches or 35.4 millimeters. So if you really need it, you can push them all the way out to this span, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would stick right here at an ergonomic position for your hand. Another thing I use this for is wire bending, which is why I have this little copper wire here. This was left by an electrician, but yeah, in this most closed position, you can see couple of millimeters it opens and closes down, so you can sit here and bend wire, and I've made all kinds of things at work just by being able to do that. And yeah, fantastic. And then the flip side of that is also flattening things back out. Because these jaws stay parallel, I can take something that's bent, a piece of sheet metal, a wire, and simply squeeze on there with that 10:1 compression ratio and flatten it all back out, which comes in handy a lot more than I thought it would. I have a bunch of wire at work that I make stuff out of. Working in cannabis, we don't always have the right tools for the job, and so sometimes you need to make something. And yeah, these pliers have been invaluable for that purpose. So there you go, wire bending. Oops. You can also crush things. This is random, but I have a cork. So let's see. Try and get on this cork. It's best if you open the handles all the way when you're getting your jaws set. And then, yeah, you can use that compression, squeeze something. You know, I don't know if it always comes in handy, but every once in a while, if I'm squeezing the last out of a tube of grease or something, or just need to break something, sometimes these come in handy. I think they would actually be really good at cracking like lobster or crab claws, though I haven't tried it yet. Another thing I use it for, it's this staple removal. Oh man, with cannabis you have tons of RFID activated tags on everything, and so they're always like stapled. And you know, sometimes it's a polite single or double staple, and sometimes the person who put it together put 19 freaking staples in it, and you're like, why? Why did you do this? I need to take all of these out in order to be able to use this. So all you do is get right up on that piece of wire, pull them up, and yeah, I use this surprisingly dozens of times a day just as a staple remover. Makes it very easy, much easier to get in there with the pliers than with my fingertips. So yeah, comes in handy quite a bit. Oops, broke that one. Oh well. Another thing you can use these for is just general gripping tasks. You know, as I said, 10:1 compression ratio, so you can really get a handle on something. And if you're having difficulty like peeling up a sticker from something, you can, like, you know, rough it up with this and then grab it and pull very easily because you have a nice handhold and a nice gripping surface because of these smooth jaws in order to pull something up. So that occasionally comes in handy as well. I also use this for folding sheet material, and that might sound kind of odd, but let me see if I can give you an example. I was working on a Gerber EAB review. Anyway, if we fold this over, right, we get a decent crease. However, if I put it down and use the rounded sort of back edge of these pliers, you can really give it a nice crease. And this does come in handy at work all the time because we have lots of forms that have sort of tear away pieces, and we also use a lot of silicone laden parchment paper for, you know, keeping hash and resin from sticking to stuff. So I'm folding a lot of sheet material, and these are actually a very nice assistant for that. And the last thing that I use these for is not recommended, but is possible. I use them for hammering. So I will sometimes take the back end and just kind of tap something into place. I avoid tapping with the tips because they are rather delicate. I have actually had to touch them up once already, as you can see. Yeah, I gripped something I shouldn't have. It was a drywall, no, not drywall, a decking screw that I had to break off. But anyway, don't tap with this side. If you're going to, tap with this side. And again, I don't think Knipex would necessarily endorse using this as a light-duty hammer, but every once in a while you're putting, you know, metal fittings back together and you just need that extra millimeter or two, and you can tap with this. So that has come in handy on several occasions. Oh, another thing about the grip is you can use it to untie knots. So I have one here, and sometimes you can work up like an old knot just by sitting there and squeezing on it. So these help me to untie knots, although I'd say the Leatherman Surge is the much more adept knot untying tool in this set. And now that we've mentioned the Leatherman, let's get to that. So what do I use the Leatherman Surge for on a daily basis? Well, I've had this guy for I think about 5 years now, and I've used it for all kinds of things. The primary use you might find surprising is I like the knife blades. Having 2 knife blades on here, one plain and one serrated, comes in handy all the time. And because they are accessible without having to open the tool, they are readily available when I need them. And I gotta say, it is one of my most beloved features of this tool. So yeah, the knife blades come in handy all the time. And the second primary function I use these for is the wire cutters. Leatherman's replaceable hard wire cutters are very nice. They can cut things up to the hardness of like coat hanger wire or like thin gauge steel wire. I don't think it's recommended by Leatherman that you do such things. I've cut nails and bolts with this that I probably shouldn't have, but the Surge of all the Leatherman tools does seem to hold up best to aggressive hard use cutting that would be beyond some of their other models. Go see my free P4 video for an example of that. But yeah, I use the wire cutters all the time, again in fashioning new tools for the lab. You just kind of stick it down there. I tend to just shoot for this bottom hard wire portion rather than the flat portion all the time. Boom, done. Copper wire, not even a consideration for the Surge. It's a piece of cake. What else? Oh, one of my favorite tools and one of the easily underrated tools on the Surge is the file. This diamond coated file. So it has a what is this? Double cut? Yeah, double cut file on this side. You do have a file on the spine portion, which does come in handy for getting into tight spaces when you need to file. And then the diamond coated reverse side. This is awesome because of the T-shank adapter that actually holds it in place. Let me try and walk this out for you. So because I can take this diamond file off, I can literally sharpen my tools like on the go. This is like a self-sustaining multi-tool for that reason, and I love that. Plus, the diamond side means I can work on filing basically any metal I come across in the lab, which has proven extremely useful already. I was able to modify different fittings and clamps and stuff and actually improve some of our machinery just by knocking off, a burr here and there and making fitment that much better. So the file is a super underrated but incredibly useful tool. And I know people are going to be like, I use the saw all the time. Well, you know what? I don't use the saw all the time. The file, to me, 1,000 times more useful than the saw. And that is my opinion, and that is my use case. If you have a problem with that, I'm sorry. I'm just not out here sawing logs all the time. All right, rant over. The next biggest tool on here for me, nope, not that one, other side, is going to be the Reamer. Where is it? Here we go. This is a lovely little tool. I never really use the hole in it. However, this little, I think you can see it's like a little hollow grind on one side and then like a flat chisel on the other. This is excellent for reaming out copper pipe, PVC pipe, general scraping tasks, and then this tip is mighty sharp and mighty stout. So if you need to like punch a hole in a can of something to try and vent it, anything like that, this is fantastic. I've stabbed this through more things than it deserves, and it just keeps coming back for more punishment. So yeah, really enjoy the scraper / reamer on there. All right, the next most important tool is actually going to be this guy, the replaceable bit driver. Now, I don't keep a bit kit on me. I literally have only ever had this, the flathead and 2D Phillips in there. But as you can see, this is well loved and well used. Really, I'm not doing a whole lot of screw turning. Again, I'm not really working with wood. I'm not working with screws. I'm working with nuts and bolts and steel. So yeah, this is used occasionally, but is used to good effect. Every time I come across a screw, it's typically a flathead or a Phillips head, and this is basically a shaved down number 2 Phillips. So yeah, it basically handles all my driving needs that I need on a regular basis, and then if I need something else, we have drills and whole bit sets to use for that purpose. So that is what I do. And lastly, I also use this tool for hammering. Again, not very recommended, but as you can tell by the wear on this side and on this side, I have occasionally gripped this like a hand hammer and just slam-a-jammed onto something. Yeah, probably not the best thing for like the handle alignment. Some of these little bolsters at the end are loose. I know I've got a loose one somewhere. I think it might be this one. But yeah, these will loosen up from pounding on stuff like a hammer. But the tool has held up otherwise. None of the internal tools loosened up. All the hinges are still good. So yeah, light duty hammering, probably not recommended by the manufacturer, but here in Joe's YouTube channel, I'd say you can get away with it without damaging your tool. Yeah, what else did I want to say? Oh, let's talk about a couple of the other things I have tried. So instead of the Surge, I have tried carrying this guy. This is an Alox Victorinox. This is a fantastic tool. It is a little bit more robust than your normal Victorinox because it doesn't have the handle scale tools. It has aluminum handles, thicker steel liners, and actually thicker tools on there as well. So yeah, this, as you can hear from the snap, is a very, very robust, non-locking set of tools. But ultimately, it wasn't my favorite alternative to the Surge. I really missed having an extra pair of pliers, especially when you need to grip onto like 2 things at once. Like let's say I was trying to isolate a piece of wire or a piece of metal to bend it, and I just, you know, if you've ever bent metal, you know that sometimes it doesn't bend right here at the fulcrum, it bends like out here. And so having an extra set of pliers can facilitate that crisp, you know, nice, very localized bending for when you need that kind of thing. So having 2 sets of pliers is every once in a while an invaluable thing for me. And so I prefer to have both of these plier sets instead. Again, the Leatherman is also good at untying knots, but I'm going to get this ugly little string out of here. This one actually bites a lot better because of these precision needle nose. So the caveat being that you may fray the cord and beat it up depending on what you're using. With the Leatherman pliers, these are a little more gentle. What else? Oh, as a supplemental knife blade, I have occasionally rotated in the Gerber EAB. Recently, I have switched out what I carry. This is the CRKT Cottidae, and I literally have some, you know, resin on there. I was packing fresh cannabis trim, and yeah, cutting up bags and, you know, shaving it off of various things to make them less sticky. Kind of gunks up the blade, but this one's super easy to take apart. I have a video on this, I'll link in the description. So yeah, sometimes it's nice to have a dedicated cutting implement if I don't want to pull out the Surge. However, this is a totally sufficient cutting tool all on its own. As I said, has 2 blades, serrated and plain, so it's kind of, you know, user's choice at that point. And then I have recently taken this out of rotation. This is a Fenix PD35 Tactical flashlight. I do work in a C1D1 environment. That means I am pretty continuously around things that are off-gassing hydrocarbons. So I have flammable gas continuously in my environment. And yeah, for that reason, I cannot have such a powerful flashlight on me. We have replaced all of our flashlights recently with C1D1 compliant lights, so I no longer bring this in. But yeah, this was a super useful complement to my everyday carry. All right, and yeah, that's the basic breakdown of what I carry and why I carry it on a daily basis. And these things that I brought in are literal things I work with at work. Like this is one of our steel bolts, and these are our brass nuts that I borrowed specifically for this video, and we'll have to take them back because wherever we buy these guys, they're like $4 a piece. Don't tell anybody. Anyway, yeah, and then I actually made this leather sheath for my Knipex pliers because I didn't really have an alternate way to carry it. I don't really carry a tool bag. I like having things on my person, so I carry it on the right side, although this is very ambidextrous. If you're left-handed, it is just a little bit trickier to hit the button. You're going to have to use your index finger for it. But yeah, that's about it. So thank you very much for checking out my EDC and for, you know, getting into it with me about my favorite EDC combo that I've ever had. So I can't recommend enough the Knipex Pliers Wrench. This is the product code that you're going to use to find these, 8603180. They no longer make this exact style. I think it has like a blue and red handle now with like a blackened finish on it, but functionally it's the same tool. So if you see that, you're not in the wrong place. They just don't make this particular version anymore. And then the Leatherman Surge. I mean, you can find this on Leatherman's site, no problem. If I had to recommend a particular surge, probably go with the stainless steel. I went with the black coated back when I was a chemical handler, and I thought it would protect the blade, and I think it did. I think it protected the tool very well, although really has taken a long time to break in. Even 5 years deep, it's still kind of breaking in and getting smoother because the coating has to wear away in order for the bare metal to slide against itself. So yeah, I would recommend the stainless steel version of this. If I could go back and buy it, I would, but you know, I kind of like the work-worn finish on this now. Gives it some kind of cool street cred, I think. All right, but yeah, this has been my favorite EDC combo of all time. I have been Joe, and you've been watching my channel, Ink&Iron. For more stuff like this, as well as I do pens, you know, fountain pens as well, notebooks, stationery, knives, tools, all that kind of thing. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, and if you like this video, give it a like. If you didn't like it, dislike it, and tell me why in the comments. All right, thank you guys for joining me. You've been great. I've had a great time talking to you about this stuff today, and I'll catch you on my next video. Bye.